everyone, and welcome to the Edge Computing Association webinar, Creating Effective Teams. And it's a series of webinars that's going to be brought to you by Tish Conlin. And Tish is certainly an expert in this area. She heads up the Global Consulting Workplace Wellness Solutions Division, as well as being a founder of Global Consulting. And you know, has a very solid background in the technology side of this, so I think could be very useful to everyone. My name is Phil Bliss. I'm the founder and president of the Edge Computing Association, and you know, really without further ado, I am going to pass over to Tish to dive into this. Okay.
Thanks so much,
over to
Phil.
you.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. This is a short training session. I know how overwhelmed people can be with everything going on and work you have, let alone trying to learn how to build more engagement in our teams. But it's such a vital topic. So I'm hoping we can create this space for 20 minutes or half an hour to tackle some important issues in engagement. I'm founder of Global Consulting Group. We're a talent solutions company, work worldwide in the technology sector. So I have witnessed burnout, lack of engagement, infighting, politics, and silos for decades within the technology sector. It's something that I know well, and my company was built on the pillars of creating great teams through some of our training. So we have worked to make huge changes with organizations. So it really does help. So today we're going to do a little bit of one of our training modules, which is located on my training site, tishconlin.com, if you're interested. And here's just a taste of some of the content in that training module. We're going to talk about why we need to think about creating more engaged teams. What are the benefits and rewards? We're going to review today 5 dysfunctions that you can find in a team according to a very popular book, which is worth checking out. And then just review a little bit about some things that will really help in the problems that we're experiencing now in our technology teams, how we can create a shared purpose, overcome roadblocks, and motivate remote teams. And first of all, why bother? Why spend time to even think about a great team? Our teams are working okay. Just leave it alone. There's enough other things to worry about, you might say. Well, think again. Think of the expression, united we stand, divided we fall. It's a powerful expression, and it's so true in teams as well. I don't know how many times I've heard technology managers and leaders and owners complain that their teams are siloed. People don't listen to each other. There's no collaboration. There's no innovation. There's infighting, conflict, setbacks. All of things happen when you don't have an engaged team. Now, according to recent research on Gallo, which is very good comprehensive research, engagement worldwide, even recently, before this crazy year of 2020, was only about 15% worldwide. That means a whopping 85% of all individuals are not totally engaged. And that's really going to affect bottom line profit, as well as everything else in an organization. How long people stay, how well they get along. People and companies that focus on engagement are up to 21% more profitable. That's a huge number. Also, turnover is far lower. So it's worth sitting up, paying attention, and maybe taking 1 or 2 ideas from this that you might want to implement as soon as today or tomorrow. So why spend time to build a great team? Well, you might be thinking, well, I'm not sure, or you might have a few ideas. You can write them down. In this training, it's always good to keep a notepad and jot down ideas. It really helps to reinforce them. So number 1, it boosts engagement. When we have a team that functions well, that speaks well, that learns to communicate, that can give feedback, you're going to boost engagement. You create ownership. People take more responsibility when they're part of a thriving team that has each other's backs. And we're going to talk about that more. And when you have a comprehensive team, that's when you can tackle innovation. It fuels innovation and creativity. If we feel comfortable, safe, and secure in a team, we're going to take those little risks to make sure innovation occurs. And we're going to build those leaders of tomorrow and inspire the best possible performance on our team. So how are you doing with your team? How would you rate yourself on a score 1 to 10? Think about it now and don't judge yourself, just work to improve each and every month. So remember, teamwork is the ability to work together towards a common vision, the ability to direct individual accomplishments towards organizational objectives. It's the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. That's a great quote by Andrew Carnegie. So let's talk about some of the things you might be experiencing on your team, or maybe you're lucky enough and you don't have any of them. But these are the 5 dysfunctions that we want to avoid. According to a book by Patrick Lencioni entitled the same, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, which is a really good book. I enjoyed it very much and a good read. There's 5 main dysfunctions. The first and foremost is lack of trust. We really need trust as a foundation for building thriving, cohesive, engaged teams. The next dysfunction is fear of conflict. And we're going to talk about why conflict is actually quite healthy, as you might be questioning that one. Next one is lack of commitment, and then followed by avoidance of accountability. And then on the top of this chart is inattention to results. Now, I remember working with an executive in a technology company recently through our coaching division, and he was talking about not only are individuals siloed, but departments have different ideas of what result they're supposed to focus on. So this can be much more challenging than you might realize, getting everybody to focus on the same result, especially when challenging times present. Let's look at the first dysfunction, an absence of trust. How do you feel about the level of trust on your team? When trust is not there, you're going to have more politics. You're going to have a lack of communication, low engagement. People don't trust each other. They're not going to share concerns, or they might not fess up if they've made a mistake, or they don't understand something. You're also going to have those horrible silos of politics and backstabbing when you do have an absence of trust. This is probably the worst thing that can happen within a team. You need to take steps to correct it right away. How can you establish more trust within a team? Because when people don't trust each other, they're going to focus on individual effort alone. So in meetings, you can take time to show your own vulnerabilities where you're not sure yourself. Make sure you speak to everybody about if they're comfortable in the group and if they have any concerns. Make sure you have an open door policy and start by building trust by being honest yourself. If you have bad news to deliver it straight ahead. Teamwork begins by building trust, and the only way to do that is overcome our need for invulnerability. Everybody has thoughts where they're not sure about a direction, they have concerns, we all have insecurities. So opening up with your team is actually going to build trust and confidence and not the reverse. So next, let's talk about fear of conflict. Now, you might be wondering, why conflict? Conflict is so harmful and so bad in my team. But what I really mean is fear of open debate. When we don't trust each other, we're not going to say that we have a different opinion. And our opinion actually might be better. So when you look at the picture on the right, which I really do like, you see the 2 individuals on the team arguing, but in the middle, there's the light bulb. And that's what we really need. We need healthy debate. We need people to say, I appreciate your perspective, but I have a different point of view on that particular point. That builds engagement. So you really need people to have different discussions within the team. When you don't have this healthy conflict, you have low risk taking in your team. You also have lack of innovation. There's just no way that that one idea sails through to the end without being questioned. So you need people to feel confident enough to question direction, question ideas, and whether this is the right way to proceed on a regular basis. And when you have a fear of conflict, you have no debate. It's so exciting having a discussion with someone on a topic you're both passionate about. You both bring new ideas and new points to the conversation, and then you walk away with a broader perspective. That's what healthy debate brings. Finally, when you are afraid of open discussion, you're afraid for whatever reason that you'll be chastised, you'll be judged, this is going to impact the results of the team. In this particular case, politeness is the poison of collaboration. That's a powerful quote by Edwin Land, something to think about. You might want to think now, how much conflict do I have on my team? Is any of it healthy? Maybe most of the conflict you have is unhealthy because it's unresolved. I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can resolve unhealthy conflict. I have a chat right now. I'll just access that. So let's move on to talking about lack of commitment, because lack of commitment makes a huge difference in an organization. I have a good story about commitment, nothing related to working in the technology sector for more than 20 years, related to something I love to do, which is soccer, because you can build teams throughout. You know, it's not just at work we have teams, whether you're doing a fundraiser, a charity event, you're in a choir, working for your child's school. I mean, there's so many ways that we can build a better team. And myself, having played soccer my whole life, I have a good story. My team wasn't the best. We were in a house league competition, and my coach, who was a burly Scotsman, he would cajole us and encourage us the same amount and make us all laugh. But he was so committed. He showed up every single week to practices, to games. And finally, we made a championship. Who knows how, but we made it to the finals. It was tied in overtime. And so we had to take penalty shots. And my coach asked me to take the final determining shot. Running through my mind, I was so nervous, but I remembered the commitment of my team and my coach, and I knew they'd support me whether I succeeded or failed. I took the shot. Luckily, I scored, which was a really happy memory. But the main memory was about how committed my team was. How committed is your team at your office? Does everyone have each other's backs? Do you feel that? Do they support each other? When you look at the picture on the right, this happens so often. You see that one ant carrying the majority of their treasure back home. There's a couple helping a little bit, and then there's the guy at the end who's doing basically nothing. This can lead to a lot of problems in a team and presents itself often. As a manager, this needs to be addressed right away. If it's not addressed, it leads to a lack of engagement within your team. And this is something that plays out on a regular basis. You need to sit down with everybody, ask them what they believe their role to be, and you can compare what their actual job description is. You'd be surprised at the differences. You can also ask where people would like to contribute that might be different from the job description, and that really might work to increase the engagement. Also, when you have a lack of commitment, you have a lack of problem solving, and it's going to lead to broken teamwork for sure over time. That one individual who's carrying the load will feel resentment, and they might give up. Or the other ones who aren't doing enough might give up completely as well, saying, well, I'm not needed anyways, I'll just coast. So this is another issue that we need to tackle head on. Remember, individual commitment to a group effort, that's what makes a team work, a company work, a society work, or a civilization work, is a good quote by Vince Lombardi. And so this is another dysfunction that we need to tackle. And you don't have to be a manager or an owner of a company to tackle it. You can tackle it as a coworker as well, because this is toxic to our teams. The fourth dysfunction of the 5 is avoiding accountability. I'm sure we all have stories of working with someone on a team who isn't accountable, who's constantly bringing excuses. I couldn't get that done because of this, or this. It's okay once, but when it happens the 5th, 6th, 7th time, it gets really draining. When we don't know who's doing what, or we're not sure if they're going to deliver, it creates unclear priorities. It creates low morale in the team, like the lack of commitment, and ineffective execution. When one person isn't doing their job, it's going to slow down the entire team. And again, this worldwide phenomena plays out of low engagement. We can see how we're getting there, and higher turnover. You get frustrated when one person on your team or several aren't carrying their load. So remember, holding people accountable is just so vital. Responsibility equals accountability equals ownership. And a sense of ownership is the most powerful weapon a team or organization can have. And so, are you keeping your team accountable? As an individual, if you're not a manager, are you accountable yourself, or are you making too many excuses? It's good to be honest and start from the reality stand so that you can make improvements. So the final dysfunction is not enough focus on results, which may seem surprising to you, but really, in the end, sometimes it can be difficult for all of us to agree on which direction we need to go. Revenue is down the company, or your biggest competitor just stole your biggest client. What are you going to do? Marketing might have one perspective, technology group and innovation might have another, sales might have a different idea. You need to sit down with department heads and figure out what is the collective direction that you want to go on. What results do you want to focus on so that you can improve outcomes? This is an important thing to tackle so that everybody in the entire organization is focused on the same results. If you're not focused on the same results, even within a group, you can get easily distracted. Of course, then you're going to have people focusing only on their own individual contribution. If they're not sure the collective results are ever going to get achieved, they'll just focus on their own, which isn't good for teams or organizations. And of course, if you're not focusing on the right goals, the right results, you're going to fail to meet targets. This is going to impact a lot of things, bottom line included. You're going to lose your achievements, and you're going to lose your top talent because people don't want to work for a company that's failing. So coming together is the beginning, staying together is progress, and working together for a common purpose is success, is a good quote by Henry Ford. So let's just do a little bit of thinking on our own now. Here's the question I have for you. Do your team members trust each other? This is an important question to consider. And how can you work, whether you're a manager or business owner or a coworker or a teammate, how can you create an environment of trust within your team? What are some of the things that you might start doing? I remember working with a technology company. Let me just take a question here. Yeah, so someone's asked for this PowerPoint, and I'll have it available on demand. But one of my technology company's clients during our coaching said, we're having a real issue with silos. Each of our developers believes they're the best, and they're not listening to each other. They don't trust and respect each other. We're having a lot of conflicts, and we're not creating our best code, actually. So in order to gain respect and trust, they had to do a lot of team building, sat down, and people would have honesty building sessions where they admit, for example, a strength about themselves and then an area for improvement, which was hard for these developers to do. But once they took that time to create, to be a little bit vulnerable, to admit that they weren't perfect and open up a little with each other, they started the ball rolling for trust. That's just one example. Think of other things you can do as a leader. Maybe you can be more honest when you're delivering bad news. Maybe you can tackle some of these conflicts in a different way. And we'll talk about that shortly. So here's a couple of tips on building a great team. And again, this is a condensed kind of mini. If you're interested in the whole training session, you can access the 45-minute training with a accompanying handout and some recommendations for books and TED Talks, etc. on the www.tishconlin.com website. It's called Creating Effective Teams. So we want to create a great team. What a feeling. Have you ever been on a great team? I mean, even if it's not at work, you can't wait to get up and get started. Everybody supports each other. This is what we're going for. Some individuals and companies have created these great teams. A couple of examples are the founder of Southwest Airlines. He created an incredible vision and allowing people to have affordable travel, and it had never been done before. His team bought into it, and they had some of the lowest turnover. They grew steadily and slowly and built an incredible reputation for serving not only the customers, but treating the employees well. So what could you do to create an incredibly inspiring vision, mission, goal, or purpose for your team? Include a why in it. What connect it to a value or a reason that's a little more exciting than we just want to make more money or we want to beat that competition. That's going to really inspire your team. Know what you want to achieve and make sure everybody has bought in, that you have team goals that are more clear than individual goals. Those should be the first priority. Think of teamwork as a definition, cooperative or combined effort of a group of persons working together as a team for a common cause. It's that simple. Put team in everything you do. Move from me to we. Even the word, even the word we is connected with wellness, which I think isn't a mistake. So set deadlines as well. That creates that accountability and purpose. We need deadlines and a little bit of that pressure to get moving and stay motivated and track progress. A lot of times we'll give someone something to do, but we don't touch base. Without being micromanaging, we can check in and offer our support and just listen to how things are going so we can help troubleshoot any particular things that come up or roadblocks. And so help people meet the goals as a coach instead of a boss is a great way to get started in building great teams. And reward individual contributions to the team goals. Make sure people are aware that we are a team and so really contributed. They went out of their way for this other member of the team. Thank you so much. So let's talk a minute about overcoming roadblocks, because every single team has roadblocks and they can really stall us in creating the great outputs, whether you're developing a product or you offer a service as a technology organization. Some of the big obstacles include interpersonal conflict on a team, for sure. This can be toxic, as we've spoken about, and can derail the best of teams. You can also have conflicting priorities. Maybe someone has too much on their plate. There's the planning fallacy that occurs many times. And if you don't know what that is, a lot of us tend to underestimate the time that it takes to complete a project. And so then you have too much on your plate and you can't get anything done, and it creates this sense of overwhelm. So we need to budget in a little bit of a buffer time, more time for each project. How can we resolve roadblocks? There are some tips that we can use to resolve roadblocks. Number one, sometimes a lot of managers think, well, it's just going to go away. I don't want to face this. It's messy facing conflict. So, people put it off, but that is not a good idea. That makes inevitably the conflict fester like a wound and grow worse. So we must tackle these obstacles and conflicts right away. We need to identify the issue, discuss it openly, and provide a written resolution so everyone's on board. Some classic types of conflict can include something as easy as giving feedback. Someone has negative feedback for another team member, and the team member takes this badly. Their ego is threatened. They're angry that this person said this negative thing about their work, and they feel insecure. So we need to coach our teams about how to give and receive feedback, change our stance to a learning stance so that instead of getting angry when someone says something negative, we're actually appreciative because they're helping us grow and learn. When we ourselves are giving feedback, you want to deliver it directly, but also support the person to get to the next step and suggest that you reconnect to have a problem-solving discussion later. If there is something wrong with work, give concrete ways that it can be improved and then meet again. This can be really helpful and helps people grow. Instead of saying nothing when there is feedback to be given, we need to directly provide the feedback and coach each other to accept negative feedback. Nobody's perfect. And if someone has the guts and courage to give negative feedback, then we should thank them. And similarly, we need to have the courage to give negative feedback as well. So this is something that can be trained within our teams. There are a number of other conflict issues, and we need to move our stance from needing to be right, persuade, and influence the other person, thinking they're wrong, to having what's called a learning conversation. So a learning conversation means both parties go to the table to understand each other's perspective better. So we're really just gathering information. You also want to express feelings, because feelings underlie a lot of conflicts, unexpressed feelings. I'm feeling resentful because I feel I'm carrying the larger load of this particular project. Is there, what is your perspective on this? And maybe we can exchange ideas and see if we can work together to find a resolution that will be acceptable to both of us. So that person had the courage to express the emotion. They're on track, much more likely to solve this problem. So have a stance of just trying to learn more about the other person's point of view instead of influencing them or judging them, which is the worst. Exchange your emotions, the I feel, instead of attacking or blaming, and then work towards a resolution is a good system for overcoming roadblocks. Now, managing remote teams is something we're doing a lot more right now. And contrary to what you might think in productivity, it's important to make a little bit of time for small talk at the beginning. I like to encourage people to have a rule to turn off their phones and devices, because we are being bombarded with distractions. And that's another topic for sure in our learning and effective time management. There's a whole module on that. But make time just to create that bond with people. Ask them about their week and their life. If you notice that they look stressed out, acknowledge these emotional cues, whether they're verbal or nonverbal. I noticed you look stressed out, or is everything okay at home? Make time to connect with each other. Use video as much as possible when you have meetings. Make sure everybody is actively involved, and set it as a rule that people are allowed to disagree with each other. This is going to help build engagement. When it comes to remote teams, make sure you schedule one-on-one time with each member of your team as well. And sometimes it's difficult to do this, particularly in the technology sector where we value our IQ. We need to value EQ as well. Show emotion and empathy and care for each other. That's going to build that trust and connection and let people feel like they belong and they're part of a thriving team. But number one as well, we need to maintain accountability. So remember, a highly engaged employees make the customer experience, but a disengaged employees break it. Have you ever had the experience, I know I have, of dealing with someone in a company who obviously wasn't happy? The customer service was so bad, I made the decision to never use that company's product or service again. So one disengaged employee can make a huge impact on the others. So another discussion point here, something to think about, is what are the biggest conflicts on your team? It's good to just be aware of the patterns. Maybe they're similar or maybe they're different than they were before. Every company and every team has some conflicts. How can you be more proactive to solve these conflicts? And how can you be more proactive to create an engaged team? So here's some really good questions for everyone who's on this webinar to think about. These are huge, huge things that we could spend a lot of time brainstorming on, but there are ways that we can start this process because it is so important. I know there's a lot of organizations that have focused on creating an amazing mission statement, values, transforming their culture, the way that they care about their team and showing them that they belong. In terms of what every person in a team needs, we all have three core needs. We want to be empowered to do the work ourselves. We want to have a level of competence, And we want to have a level of relatedness. And this is according to psychologists and the intrinsic motivation model. So think of those three things when you're focusing on how you can create effective teams. Everybody needs to feel like they belong and that they are connected to their teammates, as well as being competent in what they do and that their work matters and that they are empowered to be accountable and own their work. So thanks very much for tuning in today. If you're interested in have any questions, you can reach me at either patriciaglobalconsultinggroup.ca or tish@tishconlon.com. There's the website I told you about for our soft skills mastery. And over to you, Phil.
Well, thanks, Tish. That was really great. Some of those things I think we're feeling very, very meaningful at the present time after 9 months of pandemic, basically. But in terms of questions, just send it to Tish or go to our new website and take a look at that and use the contact form and send to us at the association. But this is the first of a series of discussions that Tish will be adding, and I'd like to thank you all for coming out, and especially thank you, Tish.
My pleasure.
Okay,
Stay
everybody.
well, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.